We have Oscars, we have Tonys, we have Emmys, and we have depression and suicide? It's the 4th episode of Fosse Verdon here on AfterBuzz TV. We're talking glory.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, welcome back to our coverage of Fosse Verdon here on AfterBuzz TV. I am your host, Brianna Phipps, the musical girl holding it down, and with me, my dance major co-host. I was going to call you a sister. I was like, that's not right.
Duo partner,
my co-host.
whatever.
We're equal partners here. It's Kim Davey.
Hi everyone, so excited for this episode. This was my favorite by far.
Oh, really? Well, we are going to be breaking down everything that happened in this episode, along with Gwen and her career not being in the place it's supposed to be, Bob's career success, but also his crippling depression. We're also going to talk about Joan Simon and her hospital stint and what's going on with her. And we're going to get into our special segment where we delve into what is different in the show than what happened in real life and what was kept the same. And then we're going to have some really great news and gossip for you guys. I know Kim gave me a little tease of it.
A taste of it earlier.
But it's going to be really juicy, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And as well as our predictions on what's going to happen next in the show.
So much in such a short amount of time.
So much. But as you said, it is your favorite episode so far. So why don't you tell me what your overall thoughts were on the episode?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it was just captivating within so many facets and so many areas. I mean, we're going to touch on it in a deeper level, but my favorite part was absolutely the end with the Pippin finale going on, and it was literally what Fosse was living, and it was fantastical. Like a musical. I loved it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was definitely darker than in some of the others we've got, and it was so interesting to learn certain things about it. And I love the artistic, like you said, the ending, which we will talk about, just the artisticness to it, because with Bob Fosse being such an artistic person, I love them kind of putting little bits here and there, and that we actually got some music.
Well, exactly. We're musical geeks, right? So we want to
haven't
see
gotten
some
any
sing and
music
dance
really,
and
I
full
feel
numbers.
like, since episode 1.
I know, totally. So it was great.
So that was fun. And then it made me like go and like dive deeper, because there were certain things that I was like, oh, I didn't know this. So I really enjoyed learning about it. I think like this one and episode 2 are like kind of tied for me as favorites right now.
Okay, research.
Yeah. So let's dive right into it. Also, guys, I'm in the chat. If you want to chat along with us, let us know your thoughts on the episode or anything that you want to chime in. We will call you out and give you a shout out on air. So let's start off with Gwen. So Gwen, this episode, we see it's been 14 years since she's last won a Tony Award.
Ticking.
Which I think just also goes to show us how long it's been since she's been on stage. But we see that her, she's reaching out to Bob. She needs his help. She wants him to kind of come in and talk to the director, because the director's ruining this play, in her opinion. He's cutting so many scenes. It's 45 minutes long.
Yeah, it's a skit. It's now a skit.
And she really needs Bob's help. And
surprise, surprise, he's not there for her.
He's not there for her, as we learn, because then the show opens. And as we said last week, it closed within one night, and we see that happen. And she tells Bob that, and she's like, you never showed up, basically.
Jab. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Your fault. Yeah, poor Gwen. I mean, she's always there for him, without a doubt, except for finally this episode. And it's the middle of the night. No, thank you very much. But yeah, she reached out for help and he wasn't there. And I mean, I just don't know why she stays around. They need each other though, don't they? Creative geniuses. They
both need each other in certain ways. They also have a daughter, so she can't just cut him out completely. But it is the overall theme of this episode. It seems to be like the selfishness of him.
Oh, yeah.
Where he takes, but doesn't give back in any kind of way, it seems like. Whether it be in a nice way, in a loving way, in a friendly way, he never is giving back. But he does come to her show. So
with flowers.
He did the bare minimum that is required to be a decent human. And he comes there with the flowers and with a girl. One of the dancers from Pippin. But he's offering to send her home. And I love this line we get from her, which is, because he's like, I don't want you to be alone. And she's like, I'm not alone. I have a whole party waiting for me. Like, I know it's still like sad because, this was her first stint back and she wanted to be this like success that she used to have again. And it is, it's an after party that you always get with an opening night, but it's also the closing night party.
Yeah.
So it is still sad, but I'm glad that she kind of like almost was like, I don't need you.
Yeah. Off and rightly so. I mean, goodness, she doesn't need him at all anymore. They're not really in the day-to-day life, are they? And potentially her boyfriend was there at that time too. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know quite when that kind of started. But she then, like you said, but by the end of this episode, we get that where he needs her again, and I love it that she hangs the phone up on him, like you said.
Yeah.
That it's just like those little things of like her finally like being like, no.
Yeah. Well, then
You've taken enough.
Yeah, at the very, very end when he's crawling back into bed with her. Oh,
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll hold off on that. But, you know, moving on, we're talking about her trying to get back into this limelight. We see it happen when she goes to his rehearsal and she's telling him about, we're going to get the rights to Chicago. We just, the Maureen Watkins estate is ready to give them the rights. And he's just kind of like,
But, and I don't usually say this, but in his defense, he was literally right in the middle of rehearsal, going hard, like, okay, cool, awesome, can you talk about that in a minute? And you know how he gets so detailed, and so I get it in that one instance, just that one.
I mean, I can understand where you're coming from there, but the fact that he was saying, I don't know what I want to do after this, I don't know if it's Chicago, I don't even know if I want, and then I love her coming back and being like, well, that's what I want.
Yeah, finally.
I want to be on stage again, I want to be a star again, and I need you.
I think it's just another example of him not thinking at all about her feelings or what she is interested in.
No, it's so ironic how many times he calls her up asking for her help or asking her to stay. Even in that moment, he wants her to stay and watch the ending and help her with the ending. And it's like you're not even once listening to what she wants or needs.
Oh, we've already established he's just completely selfish, self-absorbed, and just a complete creative who's only in his own mind and on what he wants and what he needs, and hence his downfall, because he is, you know, the number one key to life is helping others get what they want, which ultimately will fulfill you. And he misses that element, that key core component of life, and therefore,
I mean, we know Chicago got made some, I guess at some point he realized,
hello, actually, it's a good idea.
But I mean, that was a huge success for him too, so it's not like he just gave it to her. He got a lot of, I mean, he's known for Chicago. Like, I feel like that's the main play people associate his name with.
Absolutely, definitely.
But also what's going on is that his also selfishness, I feel like, and we'll get more into it later with the ending scene, but just that he's not really in his daughter's life. Like, we see that happen in that little scene where they're doing the flashes of him sleeping with all these women, but then she's at home with Nicole, and Nicole wants to watch the Partridge Family, and she's like, it's my first night off.
I don't want to watch that.
I don't want to do that. But it's just like he can do whatever he wants in his life, but she has to be the parent because he's not being the parent either. So she's taking on all that responsibility as well, which is just, it's hard.
Typical woman, really, isn't it? Like, steps up and does it.
Which I'm sure she's glad to do, because as we know, with her losing her son, or not losing him, but like giving up her son to have her career, I feel like this is her second go around. She wants to really be invested in her kid's life this time, because she probably has some guilt still from that.
However, like, I mean, I know we're going to touch on this in a second, but obviously when Joan points out to her that that's her concern, that she's not spending enough time with Nicole, she's obviously doing a good job, but potentially still has a selfish element because she's a creative, because she wants to be in the limelight, and it's obviously not being the most perfect type mother in the eyes of the friends and family.
I mean, but what I feel like it should be, though, is like she's with Nicole for a certain amount of time, and then when she's doing her things, then he should be with Nicole.
Of course.
But just the way the show is depicting it, at least, it's like he's barely ever, like, even when he's with Nicole, Nicole's at rehearsal, and he's not really focused on her. He's
giving her
just
money
letting her
and
do whatever
tabs
she wants. So it's not like she's still doing a better job than him is from what the show's depicting. We'll say that.
For sure. It's kind of bizarre now. I don't expect anything of him. My expectations are so low that nothing surprises me anymore, and I'm not surprised that he's not in her life at all. I mean, just for fun, fatherly fun.
The show is definitely not taking any easiness on him.
No, not at all.
It's definitely giving us full thrust, like, this is what we think of this person, which is that he's an amazing, creative person. He made so many great things. He had a great mind in that sense, but was not a great person.
No. Well, I suppose we can't all be perfect at everything.
True. But you know who is perfect? Our fans.
I thought you were going to say you or me. But yes, our fans are definitely perfect. All right, so hi guys. Before we move on to the next topic, we just wanted to say a huge thank you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. For us to continue to grow though, we do need your help. So if you're on YouTube right now, if you could hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. That'd be lovely. But no matter where you are, leave us a comment, and so that you can get involved in the conversation and Bree can shout you out. Being part of AfterBuzz TV has meant so much to all of us, definitely Bree and I, and we truly appreciate your supporting us and doing what we love. So don't forget to tell all your friends and just keep enjoying all our shows.
Yes, guys, it really does mean a lot to us, and we do enjoy that you're here every week, but it really does help us out, and you're here anyway, so just hit that thumbs up. Come on.
Yeah.
Why not?
You can do it.
Why not? And if you are on iTunes listening, 5 stars and a rating would be great. And like I said, if at the end of this show, if you left us one, I will potentially read it out on air.
That'd be awesome.
But moving on, another thing that's happened with Gwen, as we talked about, is Joan. Mm-hmm. So this is her best friend and Neil Simon's wife, Joan, and she's in the hospital with bad hospital food.
Yeah, but you know what? I looked at that food, and for the first time, I was like, that actually looks like decent food. Did she bring it in? Because she had a full carrot or something long and peas, and it looked like real food for once. But
maybe it was just a different time period. Maybe not as mass-produced food.
Good
I don't
point.
know.
Yes,
But,
good point.
But she's, she's doing her best to be that supportive friend.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is she dealing with her own stuff in her life, and her daughter, but she's also trying to be there for her friend who's going through a really hard time and trying to have like the littlest amounts of light in her, like bringing her food from the outside
Making
world.
it too, yeah. I was going to make it at home. What, with clam sauce or something? Something with clam sauce.
Something with wine that was going to cook off.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, she's amazing. But I mean, so many of us as women and men as well, but multitask, and we have to put on a brave face for different people, and how we have to adjust our personalities when we're interacting with different people, be it the boss, the brother, the sister, the husband. Poor husband usually gets the brunt of all of that. But it's just a typical woman. So, I mean, in that way, she's brilliant, but she's just doing what she has to do to support other people in her life.
I mean, I think the reason we're viewing it as so much is because we look at him only doing what he wants.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say he's not doing a lot. He's doing a lot working wise. I mean, obviously he's, we'll get to it, but him winning all those awards, like obviously he was busy. But it's just her, I think, trying to balance everything in her life. It seems like a lot, but you're right. It is something that all of us are doing day to day. We're balancing our relationships and our friendships and our careers. And it is a lot when you look at it. But, she finally tells Gwen, I know I'm not leaving here. So stop babying me, basically. Like, don't make me have to. She basically says, like, almost that you're being selfish in a way because you're making me have to act like I'm doing better. And I know I'm not.
That's tough to hear as a friend, though. You can see her well up. So sad to deal with. But how do you deal with that situation? Like, is it easy? It's easier to ignore it and just, because here's the reality. And I hate it when doctors say, oh, you've got 6 months or you've got 3 months. That automatically makes the mindset of that person go, oh, God, okay, yes, I only have 6 months to live. Whereas at least what Gwen is doing is, giving them a little bit more hope, because she could then choose to believe, you know what, maybe I will be okay. So I don't think it's about beating around the bush. I think maybe she was of the mindset that, maybe my friend can make this through.
I think it was like on both sides, like she's like trying, but we also do, we get that scene where she's letting Bob know, like, you should go visit her, and Bob's Bob. Yeah. And he's not like really hearing her. And he's like, oh, how is she doing? She like does that whole like, oh, the surgery went well. She thinks it's, by the way, the doctor says she has a month to live.
Yeah. But is that just to get him to go rather than how she maybe feels about a friend?
Which I don't even know if he went at that point.
No.
We don't know. But it could be that she's like, trying to give her friend some hope. And that I'm sure, you don't want to tell your friend like, oh, well, I know you only have 1 month left. So let's have our serious talks out now or whatever it is. But I mean, I think that there is if you're the person that is sick, there is a point where you're like, and
God damn it, no, and you can always come back,
and you don't want people to lie to you anymore.
But see, this is, I think this is too deeper and off topic, but it's just like, I don't believe in any of that. I totally believe in self-care and mindset and how you can get yourself out of anything. And so I would want my friends to be doing the opposite. Screw what the doctors say. This is what do you want, moving forward.
I think it is, though, kind of like whatever that person wants. And apparently at this point, Joan does not want that.
That's true.
She doesn't want to be told everything's fine. She wants to be told, I understand that you're going through this and that you probably aren't going home.
Yeah.
And the main thing she wants is Gwen to be there for her daughter.
Which was like a blow, wasn't it, to Gwen? It was like a wake-up call. It was like...
Well, I think at that point, I don't think she ever thought about, she thought like, oh, this is terrible for my friend. This is terrible for me. This is terrible for her husband. She probably thought of all those things, but maybe she didn't have that mindset yet of thinking, now this girl that's my daughter's age is going to grow up without a mom. Yeah. Because they said they were pregnant at the same time.
Yes.
So their daughters are the same age, and like, it's so much more real when you have your own daughter to like, and you're thinking like, what if I was gone?
Absolutely.
And now you're thinking of that of her, like, oh.
Well, we were expecting Joan to say, please look after Nancy, her daughter. And then she says, Nicole, please look after Nicole. And that's when she's like, whoa, hello. And so that makes me think, like I said before, about how Gwen, while she's brilliant, and I mean, everyone's got their flaws, but it just goes to show that creatives, artists, those like ourselves seeking the entertainment type industry, you have to be slightly selfish in order, because it's a very selfish pursuit. It's an individualized pursuit. And so therefore your friends and family do suffer in a way.
Yeah, I think like there's like the handful of jobs that are like that. And I would put like doctors, maybe lawyers and stuff like those jobs that require like almost 24/7 for you to be working on them.
Yes, but also I feel like the entertainment industry is even more of a self-fulfilling, creative, me endeavor versus at least with law and, medical and stuff. It's all about other people and helping other people. You could argue that entertainment's all about entertaining other people, but it just seems more of an individual... Like,
I think I've just watched too many years of Grey's Anatomy.
Which again, telling us actors.
Is acting, I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get that kind of really deep realization and she gets that deep realization that I need to step it up as a mom, and I need to be there. And she goes home and doesn't take her dinner meeting and goes home to her daughter instead.
Whereas Mr. Fosse probably would have been like, "What? Are you crazy? I spend a lot of time with my daughter."
Yeah. Well, let's get into Bob, Mr. Fosse. So we start off this whole episode with Cabaret premiering and him.
Oh, I loved it.
Him not watching it.
Yeah.
He's just in his head still
all
like,
I see is the shit I need to fix.
I could have done this. I could have done this with it. I need to rearrange this. I need that. And he's like, no, people love it.
But what about at the end when he's like
it.
leaving the theater and what's his name is like, "You gonna stay for the party?" "No, I'm not gonna stay for the funeral."
Yeah,
so
and
funny.
like that, it's for him. I don't think anything is ever good enough.
No, he's so self-critical, but that's why he's so good.
Yeah, I mean, in every aspect of his life, nothing's ever good enough. Obviously,
true.
In relationships, it wasn't.
No.
And now in his arts, it's not, and he is constantly. I feel like if he had his way, if he didn't have people making him put this stuff out or having that deadline, like we would never see any of his work because he would constantly be changing it.
Absolutely. And isn't it interesting as well? Like like you say, he's always very self-critical, and he doesn't like anything that he's created. But when he read the reviews and then everyone likes it. Oh, maybe it's okay then.
I think it's like he needs that validation from other people.
Validation. Yeah.
Like for him, it's never gonna be good enough. But if other people like it, okay, maybe there's something I'm not seeing or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Isn't that funny how we're easily swayed by the opinions of others? Yeah.
It's a big part of, I guess, just the life, especially the creative process. Because basically you're
putting yourself out there.
Well, and if people don't like what you do, then you don't have a job.
Yeah, true.
So
no money, no food.
But it is a huge success. It's getting... it had that little slate telling us like this much money since Cabaret, and it just wasn't stopping on the last number.
Yeah,
it kept going up and up and up. And but then again, we're getting more selfishness from Bob with his friend Patty and him going to the party. You didn't tell me, you're not coming, and all that. So again, the big theme of this entire episode to me was selfishness.
Oh, easy in so many areas. Absolutely.
But after that, he kind of, sky's the limit for him. He can kind of do whatever he wants now because Cabaret was such a huge success. And he takes advantage of it. You know, we see it. They are doing the rehearsals for Pippin, and when people are questioning him, he's like, you know, who else questioned me? The people on Cabaret, and look what happened with there. So
that was a good call, quite smart.
Very smart. But then we also see him using his power in the dancers that are coming home to him.
Movement, yeah.
And he, for the most part, he's getting whatever dancers he wants to come home. But then we get this one girl, Sherry, who he walks her home, and he's trying so hard to go up to her room, and she's saying no. And he's not taking no for an answer. He's like in the slyest way possible, he's saying, you sleep with me, you get a role.
Yeah.
And you get a solo.
And he means it too.
Yeah, 100%.
Because then the next day.
Yeah, when she needs him in the groin, and all of a sudden it's like everything she's doing is wrong.
Yeah. But I mean, just from the whole perspective, obviously, of the fact he's sleeping with all the cast and he can have whatever woman he wants. I mean, there's always two sides to that story in a way. So what he's doing is so wrong and it's disgusting. And he should be, I mean, he's basically molesting Sherry when he's making advances. It's just disgusting. But all those girls are responsible for their part in that as well, like trying to climb up the ladder by sleeping their way to the top. So that's a huge no-no on their part as well. It's two to tango. But in saying that as well, if you were in that cast and you, whether you knew or whether you didn't know that half the cast is slept with the director, that is such an unprofessional environment to work in.
It's a huge unprofessional environment, but then I also can see that if they see one person turn him down and this is what happens, the fear of turning him down.
Which is so disgusting and so unprofessional.
I mean, this is it's so
Probably
interesting
so
to be watching it now with the whole Me Too movement happening at this moment, and being like, this is what led to where we are now. You know, obviously even years before this, like, but this is how it was, and nobody questioned it because you see it. There's a ton of men in the room too, and they all know. The only one that seems to be able to say no and get away with it is Annie, who we know becomes his future third wife, right?
Not actually married, but
not yet, because he's never divorced Gwen, but like basic wife. So she was the only one that was able to kind of say no to him.
Yeah, and like Gwen said, you know, she's such a good dancer, and she's one who doesn't basically need to sleep her way to the top because she's so good.
Yeah, she knows she doesn't have to go back to your hotel to get the solo. Yeah, because she's that good of a dancer. But it is kind of sad in a way to think like the one girl who was able to say no to him does end up with him still.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, good point. At least
I guess
she
he
technically kind of gets a ring on her finger, kind of, not really.
I mean, we don't know when that happens. It hasn't said in the show yet.
With theatre and promiscuous males and those show romances,
I don't think it's just theatre. I think it's the entertainment industry, because I think it happens in film and television too.
Well, the entertainment industry, that heightened like fantasy world. We're not playing who we are. We're doing characters. It's crazy where our brains go.
It's also scary how quickly and easily people can be influenced. Because then we see Sherry, you know, she gets kicked out of her role. It gets given to Annie, and then next thing that happens, she offers to go buy him a drink. Which
I hope it stops there.
I think that was their way of saying that she's going to go sleep with him. I think that they weren't going to show us that, but that's what they were implying, was she's going to go buy him a drink and they're going to go.
I just don't get it, because it's never worth it. Like, yes, you may, by sleeping with somebody. Okay, I don't have experience in this. Just speaking not speaking from experience, but if you're sleeping with someone, you might get that little role, but then surely you're disrespected overall. Like, people don't have respect for you, and
you might be, but
good ones eventually,
you might get disrespect, but it's also, I think it's that fear of being blacklisted and not getting any more roles if you say no. And I think that's how it's able to happen over and over again. And yes, there are the women that do this too. They're far fewer than men, but it's that fear that if I don't say yes, then he has so much power. He's so famous. He has so much influence. He can tell all these other people not to hire me. Like, what if I never get another role?
So wrong, isn't it? Karma's going to bite them in the bottom later.
It is. And as we see through all of this, he's still not happy. He's getting everything he seemingly wants. He has great success. He's one of the biggest directors and choreographers in the world. He's getting all these women to sleep with him. He, in 1 year, wins 2 Tony Awards, 1 Oscar, and 3 Emmys. But now he seems more depressed than he's ever been.
Well, it's purely, I swear, it's that point I made earlier about the one thing in life to ensure your success and happiness is to help others on their journey. And that is the one thing he cannot do, even to Gwen, who helps him out repetitively. So he's missing the connection of love and the basis of life.
It's also just that we see it is one of the biggest themes in film and television and theater, that money doesn't buy happiness. Success does not buy happiness.
Yeah. But I don't even know if it's that, because those things can buy happiness in their own particular way.
I don't think that they buy you happiness. I think they buy you the means to be able to get your happiness, and whether that's helping other people or whether it's having the money to be able to go do other things that make you happy. But them in itself, like having a lot of money is not going to give you happiness.
Absolutely
having a lot of success is not going to give you happiness. You have to, if you're rich and successful and you have no friendships and no relationships,
and your heart is not in the right place, what's the point?
Like when you die, who's there for you?
Prime example of what's the point? He's got all those awards sitting there in his hotel room, and then he goes groveling back to Gwen because the one thing, I mean, what's the point of awards if you don't have someone to share it with, to be like, congratulations, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and we see that even with his daughter being like, he didn't thank me.
Yes, perfect example.
It's just,
he's missing the heart element.
He's missing, he's not developing any close relationships. Nobody's staying in his life except for Gwen. Gwen's the only one, and I think that's why they had such a strong connection with each other. And I think that's why they stayed with each other, is like she was the only one willing to put up with everything. No one else was really,
she must have had such a soft spot for him. Like, it must have really fallen hard when they first fell in love.
Well, I think that there's also, we don't know the whole story. We're seeing one version of the story. I'm sure that there were lots of good parts to him, and she knew a side of him that no one else saw. Otherwise, I don't think that she could have.
Oh, absolutely.
But like you said, there's more than one side to a story. We're seeing one side of this story. We're obvious, but I mean, as we know with all that jazz, I don't think he thought very highly of himself either. And we'll see what happens with the rest of the series if he ever kind of gets that, as they say, come to Jesus moment.
It's so interesting because at the end of the day, it's like, is it all worth it? Like, is all the glitz, glam, fame, awards, work worth it? I mean, you know how we have a choice right now, like we're pursuing the entertainment industry, and it's like, it's going to be tough and it's going to be hard, and then all these things, and then at the end of the day you look at other friends who may be just settling down and having families and just doing really simple, lovely, beautiful things. Like, what's going to make us happier, and why do we pursue this?
I think that everybody has like this different version of happiness, and I think what happens is, like, a lot of people, like within us, especially more women, as we get older, we look at the people like, oh, they're married, oh, they have kids, they're happy, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, good point.
I feel like, again, like, it just depends on who you're surrounding yourself in life. Like, you never, you could have the family, but you could be missing your career, and
or you can have it all.
Or you can have, some people do get it all.
They do.
I think it's just being happy with what you have at that moment in your life, and being grateful
for everything,
and not always be just looking at what you don't have.
Yeah, and just smile.
And just smile. He's not able to do that, and he
needs to go on a meditation retreat, a 1 week silent deep dive.
But he's, we see him delving with these drugs and the alcohol, and he's being consumed with it, and he goes to Gwen because that's the one person that he can continuously rely on. And she's with a man.
Oh, hello. Is it Ron? Mr. Ron?
Ron. She has Ron in her bed, which we've learned earlier with her talk with Joan, that she was dating a younger man who was very good with his finger.
It was awesome.
That he had more talent in his
one finger. And most men in their whole bodies. Ooh.
Yes, thanks. Shout out to Steph, our producer, in the booth with all the great sound drops.
But I loved it. I mean, it was so pathetic when Fosse came into the bedroom. Hello, sweetie, I'm home, and like cuddling her like a little 4-year-old child. Boom! On the ground. That was awesome.
And he then goes to his hotel room, and they make it seem like this is the moment that made him like really, like, the whole theme of the episode. We got these flashes of the three things, which was him as a child dancing, the pill bottle, and jumping out a window. And he goes to, his hotel room. He's super messed up. He's depressed. And he gets these images of people in his life, which is Patty, Gwen, and then the dancers, and stars of Pippin.
Which is so cool.
And we get this kind of montage of them, like,
Him
just
literally
him.
living Pippin, like,
Yeah.
glory,
And
glory,
then-
is he going to go out
and
the
then
window?
pushing him, being like, do it,
Oh, it was
do it.
brilliant.
I wrote down one of the quotes that Gwen says, which is, the ones who die young, those are the ones who live forever.
remembered. Yes.
You never know that you, oh no, sorry, you know that you made me a star, but if you do this, you'll eclipse me, you'll eclipse everyone.
Yeah.
Being like, come on, do it.
Yeah.
It'll make you immortal.
Brilliant.
Like, you'll live forever if you do this, because your name will be everywhere.
Yeah.
You'll be dying at the height of your success.
Yeah. That's so sad and so true, isn't it? Just that thought that those that die young are remembered, you know, more so than just growing old.
I mean, you can be remembered either way, but I think it's just,
It's more
Yeah.
tragic and it's more of an impact.
it's like when you die when you're older, it's like, oh, they lived such a great life.
Yeah.
They had all this, and then
You don't
they
get
had
that.
it. Yeah, when you die when you're young, it's like, oh,
Too
what did we
young.
miss out on? Like,
Yeah.
what could they have done with their lives?
Yeah, totally.
But he's gonna jump, and then he thinks of his daughter Nicole, and they have her singing, I guess, "I'll Miss the Man," which is from Pippin, and he decides not to.
That was like the first and only time he's actually ever connected on a human level to, oh, actually, there's a purpose here, and I love someone and care about someone more.
And there's someone that relies on me,
Yes. Yeah.
that needs me.
Yeah.
And then I wrote down a couple more lines that we got, which is one of the dancers says, he's choosing life. How realistic is that?
I know, which is exactly what
And,
he'd said earlier about the ending with going off on the farm as Pippin and
Yes.
choosing love. Yeah.
And then Verdon or Gwen says, I guess I was wrong. I guess you're like everyone else.
Yeah. That's a blow.
I mean, that was such a powerful statement to say, like, he viewed himself somewhat as like above everybody. And I think that was like, you're not better than anybody. Look at you. Look at what you're about to do. And look at how you were too scared to do that. You can't even do this. Like, not that that's something he should be doing, but that's kind of like the statement that's being made.
Yeah.
Like, you're also human.
It was really interesting, the fact that they are, you know, assisting him in literally committing suicide. I know it's only in his brain, but you don't usually see that on TV. It's always like people, you know, holding someone back or trying to stop it. And in a way, by them actually pushing for it to happen, it makes you even more aware of don't do it. It works in the reverse, which is quite interesting for future TV series and movies. Maybe that's a better way to put the message across.
To get it across.
Yeah.
But, you know, he then comes out the window, and all this, we hear daddy, we hear the operator on 911, and then the next thing we know, he's woke up, and we get that slate saying that the Payne Whitney Psychiatric Clinic. And that's the end of the episode.
All bruised.
All bruised.
Was that the bruises from Ron, or was that from something else we don't know what
I think it was from Ron.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing, because nothing else that I saw happen
Well, no, unless
would have
something,
caused that.
he did fall out the window and we don't know yet, or something. Yeah, maybe.
I don't
sure
think
he had more
so.
than bruised eyes.
I don't think so. In our segment, we'll get into some news
what
about
happened and what
what
didn't.
happened, what didn't,
Gotcha.
with the psychiatric clinic. But yeah, so that's where we end the episode, is him needing help
Yes.
again.
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 And it was day 2 in the psychiatric.
Do you have
ward,
any
so-
more thoughts on the episode before we move on to some of our segments?
No, I think I'm pretty happy with what we've just said.
Really good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it was
really
a good
liked it.
it was a good episode. I'm
was
excited
great.
to see where we're going next.
Yeah, and it's all making sense in order, and we're back on track with that still. So, yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm really excited to see what happens next year now.
Yeah. So let's get into our special segment,
Cool.
which is where we talk about what happens in the show that is real and what happens in the show that maybe was improvised for
Enlighten
television.
us.
So a couple of the things we got. So he was known for the sleeping around and for sleeping with his dancers in particular. Someone it was an anonymous person said in a quote to a newspaper, "You can assume he's going to try to make you. He tries with every girl and gets a fair percentage. He's so casual, he doesn't give you much respect." So that was like a quoted line that was put in a newspaper about him, but it was anonymous because obviously you wouldn't want
It might even be one of the girls who
want him to
actually
find
is
out.
sleeping with him.
But the story, the girl Sherry, they changed her name, but that was a real encounter that did actually happen on the set of Pippin. Her name was Jennifer Naren Smith. She was a ballerina, and she did refuse him, and then did get tormented at rehearsal and picked on.
Did she
So-
get pulled out of numbers as well?
Yes. Yes. So that was based on a real person. They just changed the name because they probably didn't want to broadcast it out. He was fascinated by death and suicide, that was something that was a common thing in his life and that people talked about, like that he brought up a lot. And he did check himself into a facility for depression after winning the awards. But they said it was for a long weekend. So it wasn't for very long.
That's good he checked himself in.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good that he took the steps that he needed to take instead of the step out the window.
It's terrible.
No, there was no word if the encounter with Ron was true, that if that ever actually happened, or if Ron even existed. There's no verification that that was a real thing. It could be, but
that's interesting, because surely the daughter would know.
It could be, but right now there's no record of it being true.
Oh, gotcha.
The daughter hasn't said if that was or was not, and there's no on-record thing of her having a boyfriend named Ron that was younger than her. And it also is not verified if he tried to commit suicide or attempted to or thought about it for that scene. But they did say that last scene could just be a nod to All That Jazz as well, because in All That Jazz, when he's in the hospital, he's encountering all these different people throughout his life that he wronged in a way, and his past relationships and what he messed up. So it could be that. And then Joan Simon, who we did see, she did die in 1973 that year of bone cancer at the age of 41.
Oh, so sad.
So there's a little update for you on what
didn't happen.
What didn't happen.
Good job.
Do you want to get us into some news and gossip?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I was super fascinated. Boom! I was forgetting.
We like to come in with a bang.
It freaked me out in the process. Thanks, Steph. Cool. So I was really fascinated from the other week about Gwen's first son. And so his name was James Hennigan Jr. And I wanted to know what happened to him. What was he doing? Where did he end up fully living? Was it just at Gwen's parents, etc.? Anyway, so the story goes that he did bounce between Gwen's parents' family home, a boarding school in Connecticut, and actual Verdon's apartment in NYC. So when she was living there with Nicole, he was apparently there at times as well, which we haven't seen yet, so maybe we will. And he says today that Verdon literally strived to give him the most normal childhood possible, and that he felt that he did have one. So that was cool.
That's good.
And then his background. So James actually went into entertainment as well. And he was in the TV series Lassie and the Waltons, and then he wrote some screenplays, so he became a writer. But then also there's notations of him also being a plumbing contractor and also a restaurant owner, and apparently now he cooks at a Californian-based mission. So go figure, multi-talented tasking there. And then separately, in other news, I was interested to find out more about Anne Ranking, who, like we said before, was basically Fosse's third kind of wife. And so we were introduced to her tonight. He came across her in Pippin, and she was the dancer that was replacing Sherry when she got kicked out of that group, doing that Manson trio number with the hips. And so she came in across his life that way. She was obviously a fantastic dancer. In the years later, she went on to play Grace Farrell in the 1982 Annie, who was Oliver Warbuck's secretary. So she was the one that loved Annie the whole time. Nice. She was a judge in 2005 documentary Mad Hot Ballroom. She played herself in the mostly autobiographical film All That Jazz, obviously. And then she was the choreographer of the still running revival of Chicago on Broadway, and starred as Roxy Hart for quite some time. So she had a great career.
Yeah, that's a really good
as
career.
well.
Yes, that is some good news.
That is some news. That's enough
I
for
do
tonight.
have two quick little ones. We are now running short of time. We're probably going to have to cut our prediction segment, so you'll just have to wait till next week to see what's going to happen. But Fosse, I did want to just mention that Fosse was the only person in history to have won all three awards, meaning a Tony, an Emmy, and an Oscar in the same year.
Wow. Still to this day?
That's what I believe it said in the article I read. I don't quote me 100% on that, but I believe it said that he holds that record. People have won all three, just not in the same year.
Yeah.
And that Cabaret was nominated for 8 out of 10. It was nominated for 10 Oscars. It won 8 out of the 10, and holds the record for a film winning that many that did not go on to win Best Picture.
That's crazy, eh?
So yeah,
Good stuff, Brie.
A little fun facts for
like
you. But yeah, so that about does it for this episode of Fosse Verdon. We'll be back next week to talk to you guys all about what's going on with that episode.
4 to go. Only 4 to go. We're halfway.
We'll have to go into the comments below and put our thoughts on what's going to happen then. But yeah, we will be here for the rest. Amy Main Street looks like will be joining us again for the rest of the series. Cool. So you will have 3 of our lovely voices to listen to and 3 of our lovely faces to look at. But until then, Kim, where can they find you to talk with you about everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone, you can find me on all my social media at Kim Davey Live. And Brie, what about you, Del?
You guys can find me at Brie_Phipps. That's BRI_PHIPPS on Twitter and Instagram. And we will see you guys all next week.
Awesome. See you guys.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.